billion domestic violent game industry. More than half of the 50 top-selling video games contain violence. An estimated 4 out of 5 U.S. households with a male child own a video game system, and worldwide sales of video games are predicted to reach $102.9 billion in 2017.
Can video games make us more violent, or some players who are influenced towards aggression seek out certain games? There's nothing but a debate to find out if video games make people seek more violence. In the news article written by Healthline.com in 2014, they had stated that in America, 91% of kids play video games and 90% of popular games portray violence. I think video games make people more violent because they think it is acceptable behavior. For instance, Grand Theft Auto. Why would you accept killing people and raping women in a game is suitable, but it's not in real life? But do people really think about that? Not to mention how Grand Theft Auto is a violence against women, how it assaults on women can be framed as shamelessly entertaining. It's a game that encourages players to murder women for entertainment. The incentive is to commit sexual violence against women, then abuse or kill them to get health points, and is also encouraged to kill her to get money. Pathetic. How are these kind of video games acceptable for children to play for hours on end, and not even children, but teenagers and adults?
Okay, back to you guys for your 4 points.
1.2 billion people worldwide play video games, if that be on your phone or console. Most video games in the world are violent. They have some form of violence, if it's just setting two things out to fight or not. And in 2013, they counted 1.2 billion people played video games. Now, in the year before, there was only 437,000 murders. Now, if we went those statistics that video games cause violence, and a good portion of the world, seeing as there's only 7.6 billion people in the world, so 1/7 of the world, if we took that they committed those crimes, that's not even 1%. So if that was the case, those are statistics I'd be very happy with a violence crime.
So going back to your opening statement saying how it leads toward violent acts towards women and stuff, nearly all young men play video games, so the fact that some people commit violent acts also play games should not be surprising, nor does it imply a casual relationship. An estimated 4 out of 5 U.S. households with a male child own a video game system. Although boys play an average of 9 hours per week, only a small percentage of them display violent behavior. Patrick M. McCart, PhD, Director of the Interpersonal Research Laboratory at a university, stated 90% of young males played video games, finding that a young man who committed a violent crime also played popular video games such as Call of Duty, Halo, or Grand Theft Auto as pointless as pointing out that criminals also wore socks.
Video games also have been proven to cure epilepsy, treat epilepsy, and actually reduce violent behavior in people with autism. Now, if video games cause violence, how can they be used to cure it?
In Brown Bird's Entertainment Merchants Association, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that 7-2 that California could not ban the sales of violent video games to minors because studies do not prove that violent video games cause minors to act aggressively.
Okay. You guys are getting 4 points. We'll switch it over to the other side.
Okay. So you said if video games cause violence, how can they also be used to treat or cure violence? Well, it's the same thing as chemotherapy. Chemotherapy can be used to treat cancer, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make people sick if it doesn't work. And also, the American Psychological Association says that research demonstrates a consistent relationship between violent video game use, aggressive behavior, aggressive cognitions, aggressive affect, and decreases in pro-social behavior, empathy, and sensitivity to aggression. So, and it's also been proved that it's a major risk factor in relation to violent behavior. It's not like wearing socks, it's like walking around with a jacket in the cold, so.
Living around violent culture and influences can severely alter a child's DNA, aging them prematurely 7 to 10 years. Those who grow up around domestic violence and violent and graphic influences are 6 times more likely to commit suicide, 50% more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, and 74% more likely to commit violent act against someone else. ChildDomesticViolence.org stated that.
Trevor, a character in the popular GTA Grand Theft Auto 5, is seen as a character with extreme anger issues and a tendency to shoot at other characters without notice. In March of 2014, Eldon Samuel III confessed to the brutal murder of his father and younger brother. Eldon III cited that his reason for the violent murder of his family was because he was emulating his favorite Grand Theft Auto character, Trevor. He committed his crimes with a .45 caliber handgun, killed his brother with the same handgun, a machete, and a knife. He was 14, his brother was 13, and there were claims from the detectives that even though the nature of these crimes were extremely gruesome, Eldon showed no remorse at all when speaking to the detectives, because this is his norm from playing violent video games constantly. He's been adapted and he's desensitized from the whole entire thing.
Grand Theft Auto is one of North America's highest earning and most popular game ever. Grand Theft Auto, according to Forbes.com, is the highest entertainment launch in history. In other words, Grand Theft Auto 5 is not only hit 1 billion in sales, faster than the fastest growing video game, it beat 3 biggest film launches of all time by 16 days. So Avatar, Deathly Hallows Part 2, and The Avengers are like 3 of the highest ranked movies.
Okay, if that's your 4 points. We'll take a minute break now before we get into the open debate.
Oh, my phone's too quiet. Carry on.
Go ahead, Calvin.
I want to first start off with your opening. You said you're encouraged to assault women, rape them, which I gotta clarify first. Rape depicted in video games is not legal. It's not even. It was banned even in Japan. One of the cultures that has some of the most xenophobic depictions in video games and shows has outlawed it. It is not allowed. It is illegal to depict rape. And the violence towards women, nothing encourages you to go beat up a woman in the game.
I beg to differ.
Hookers in GTA 5, they do not actually have money on them until you pay them to perform an act. Which there's no benefit to doing so, because if you were to give a hooker your money in the game, you'd actually get, say you give them $50. When you kill them, you'd only get $25 back. So there's no encouragement to do so, to commit these violent acts.
See, what I found online, I have 2 things. There's a mod unlockable through the game that the company created, where it's a mod unlockable where you can rape any character in the game, which is disgusting, first of all. And that's encouraging people, especially like young minds like children, to walk around and say, oh yeah, like that's the norm. That's in a video game, I played it. It seems like it's real. And also, it's encouraged to do things to hookers. You can sell them, you can beat them up, you can kill them, and it's encouraged to do that to gain health points in your game.
Just a question, was that mod called Hot Coffee?
No.
No, it's because GTA 5, have you played these games?
I've never played. I've played it
So
once.
your opinion's completely off.
No, I got it from the Grand Theft Auto website, actually.
Okay, because I'm
forums.
not very aware of any mods that allows you to rape anybody
Okay.
or sell hookers, since there's actually been a giant spree of the Rockstar, the creators of Grand Theft Auto 5, banning people for modding their game
Okay.
because of a bug in the system. So why would they allow you to do something they just have come out and said they're not for?
That's weird because it's a company-created mod, not an individual
Where'd
mod.
you find the source?
I found it on GrandTheftAuto.com.
That could be multiple.
Okay.
They don't own GrandTheftAuto.com. It's called Rockstar.com.
Alrighty.
But violent video games have been blamed for school shootings, increases in bullying, and violence towards women. Critics argue that these games desensitize players to violence, reward players for simulating violence, and teach children that violence is an acceptable way to resolve conflicts.
So violent video games, you say, allow or make people desensitized to real life violence. But in a way, it just allows players to release their stress and anger in the game, leading to less real world aggression. A peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that children, especially boys, play video games as means of managing their emotions. 61.9% of boys played to help me relax, 47.8% because it helps me forget my problems, and 45.4% because it helps me get my anger out. Researchers point to the effect of video games as a possible reason for why higher game sales have been associated with lower crime rates. And at the peer-reviewed study in the Journal of Adolescent Research concluded boys are using games to experience fantasies of power and fame to explore and master what they perceive as exciting and realistic environments distinct from real life. To work through any angry feelings or relieve stress as social tools, the games serve as a substitute for rough and tumble play.
See, to me, when you say that they use them as fantasies to live out fantasies that they wish, like fantasies are things that you want to happen or things that you want to imagine in your real life. So when you're imagining things like, I'm gonna murder this woman, or I'm gonna steal that car, or I'm gonna shoot this guy, who's to say that those people aren't psychologically unstable? Children are the most impressionable and marketable source. So when a majority of children, which is over 97% children, play video games, ages 12 to 17 play video games, contributing to the 21.5 billion domestic video game industry. You're saying that I just don't understand your point when you're saying a fantasy is what is the basis of these people playing these video games.
I can clarify a little bit on that. One, these games come with age ratings for a reason, not to be used for people with impressionable minds. So these kids playing these violent video games that they're affected by, that's more of a failure of parenting than the company itself. Just because you release a violent movie and you say you have to be 18 to watch this show, and if a parent takes it there, that's their responsibility, not the company's.
So it's the parent's responsibility if their children are playing the video games, and then their children are influenced by the video games.
Are one of the most widely blamed sources of media and entertainment, blamed for violence from children. Since it takes up it covers 97% of people that play video games, children. That means a majority of them, video games or not, are in that category to cause violence. And a lot of these kids that commit school shootings and playing video games have long histories of aggression and mental problems. Taking into account the last 4 school shootings in the States have been blamed on video games, but they had a long history of untreated mental health issues. Video games are just a wide spectrum that people used to cover because it gets media attention. That's like saying, oh, everybody that breathes air kills. Because everybody breathes air. Almost everybody plays video games.
All right, on the other side, go ahead.
Are violent video games responsible for violent behavior? The short answer is yes. Children's minds, unmolded and untouched by the trials of the real world, are truly an amazing thing. Kids have extensive, full-blown imaginations. So showing children violent and graphic images where they can live through characters that they create molds them into thinking that this is a normal occurrence. Children are something none of us can prevent. They are naive in nature and impressionable beyond our wildest beliefs. When a child of 8 years old in Louisiana killed his 87-year-old caregiver after frequently playing the violent video game Grand Theft Auto 5, which contains life-size and realistic versions of handguns and violence where you can gain points for raping, beating, and killing realistic, albeit computer-generated people. Detectives concluded that the game was a major cause. Unfortunately, Grand Theft Auto enforces violent rape culture with unlockable mods and high scores to people who violate and murder people in their online game. It might not be the final and ultimate cause of violent shooting, but there is a direct link. ChildrenDomesticViolence.org says that children who grow up around violent behavior and show cases of abuse and brutality are more likely to rape, murder, and abuse others. Being subjected to video games on a daily basis, which 91% of children are, and being subjected to violent video games on the daily, which 90% of games are, will start to affect your psyche. especially now when games can completely immerse the player in realistic violence. Maybe, rather than thinking of something like Grand Theft Auto as the root cause of violence, we should instead think of it as a risk factor, in the same way that eating a fatty cheeseburger would be considered one risk factor for heart attacks, as Dr. Praveen Arkabong. But instead of thinking of immersion in violence through first-person shooter games as a cheeseburger, we need to be thinking of its impact on young minds as you're sitting down on the couch, never to get up again, which will cause a lasting impact on you and the people around you.
Great debate.